On behalf of the Eden Prairie Chamber of Commerce, my name is Pat Mulqueeney. I'm the president of the chamber and want to thank you all for joining our Twin Cities Young Professional Summit virtual meeting this morning. Our topic today is creating a world-class client experience. And maybe there's no better time to have this type of discussion than the issues of COVID and kind of a new business model out there, and how do you create such an experience with limitations that many of us are facing because of that. Joining us today is Kit Welchlin, and he is, I'll go through his bio quickly here and get us kicked off, but I also want to thank our sponsor, Hamline University. As you may know, the Eden Prairie Chamber of Commerce created the Twin Cities Young Professional Summit a little over 4 years ago now, and Hamline has been a sponsor of the event each and every year, and we appreciate that support. In terms of our speaker, Kit began speaking at the age of 9 in 4-H, which is amazing to me, speaking at 9. But Kit has a BS degree in speech communication, business administration, and political science. He earned an MA degree in speech communications and business administration as well. Kit purchased his first manufacturing company at age 21, and by 26 was CEO and chairman of the board of 3 manufacturing companies in 3 states. He's been an instructor with Minnesota State colleges and universities, where he received the Excellence in Teaching Award. He is a professional member of the National Speakers Association and earned the CSP, which stands for Certified Speaking Professional designation. He has delivered more than 3,000 presentations to more than 500,000 people. In 2014, Kit was inducted into the Minnesota Speakers Association Hall of Fame. Some of his clients include 3M, Target, Cargill, General Mills, Land O'Lakes, and the Mayo Health System. Please join me in welcoming Kit. And if we had the opportunity to give you applause, we could do so. But I'll turn it over to you and let you take it from here. And we'll make you host so that you can share all your information.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you for that flattering introduction. After an introduction like that, I can't wait to hear what I have to say. And a couple of things I'd like to clarify as we get started. Pat mentioned that I began speaking at the age of 9. I began public speaking at the age of 9. I was babbling before that at a younger age, but I had my first opportunity to give a presentation in 4-H. And I did not begin public speaking at the age of 9 out of desire. It was out of necessity. You see, when I grew up on that hog and dairy farm in southern Minnesota, I was the youngest of 4 sons, no sisters. And I grew up in a position-centered family, not a person-centered family where everyone would have an equal say or an equal vote. No, there was a true hierarchy in the family where my dad had the most authority, then my mom, and then it went from oldest to youngest, and I was the youngest. So what would happen around the dining room table is my dad would say something, then my mom would say something, then Cabot, Kelly, Corey, and then they'd change the subject. And I always had a terrible time getting into the conversation. But in 4-H, I could get up in front of a club once a month and give a 5 or 10-minute speech without interruption, and well, we haven't stopped since. Then I went to school at Mankato State, became a college dropout. I left college after my junior year when a little manufacturing company came up for sale in my hometown. And the reason the business was for sale is because the gentleman that had started the company in 1972 had already suffered a massive heart attack by 1983. So it looked like something I should get involved with. And it was a stressful business. The presentation I deliver the most often is called STP, Stress, Time, and Procrastination Management. Coincidentally, the presentation I deliver second most often is handling difficult people, dealing with people you can't stand. So I don't know if there was a correlation there or not, but things turned out just fine. The business grew to 3 companies in 3 states, and I left those companies back in 1989 to do this, to provide speeches, seminars, and workshops. Now, Pat, if you could let me share the screen, that would be great. If you could give me a little control. I have a little PowerPoint slide to go along with the presentation. So I went back to school. I finished my undergraduate degree. Thank you. Stayed 1 more year, picked up my master's degree. And since 1991, I've been running around trying to get people to work together better and get more done in less time. And Pat is correct, somewhere around 3,000 or so presentations. And, for the last 20 years, more than 95% of my work has been referral and repeat. So I really practice what I preach. And when I was in manufacturing, I used to listen to this little section of a tape. I had a tape series called Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale. And it was only a 5-minute drive from my home to the first manufacturing company that I'd purchased. And I would listen to this one little part of the tape that said this: if you would spend just 20 minutes a day thinking, I don't know if the tape was stretched or that was Earl Nightingale's voice, but it was, if you would spend just 20 minutes a day thinking about how you could serve your customer better, you will lead the field. So that's what I would do. I'd get to work early. I'd think about how could we serve GE better? How could we serve Midland Ross better? How could we serve Toro or Telex better? And we just tried to get a little bit better over and over again. And that's what I'm going to suggest today, because there's not really a lot of competition when it comes to world-class customer service or client experience. And if we can make some minor adjustments with the systems we already have in place, our clients will say, wow, rather than whoa. We'll at least meet and exceed their expectations consistently. So I'm going to share with you information that will do that. But I'm just going to make a lot of suggestions this morning. I'm not necessarily going to give you advice. The main reason I'm not going to give you advice is, well, frankly, Socrates was a man that went around giving people good advice, and I understand they poisoned him. So I'm just going to make a lot of suggestions today, but all these strategies will work if you put them to work. So let's go ahead and get to work. I'd like you to recall a poor customer service experience you had lately. I'd like you to think about, how you felt and the decision that you made based upon that experience. So if you could recall a poor customer service experience, it probably was that they didn't know your name or didn't know your background, or if you're a brand new customer, it wasn't very warm or welcoming, or they didn't show up, or they didn't follow through, or what you ordered isn't what showed up at your doorstep. So there's a number of things that went wrong, usually when we think of a poor customer experience. But if you could recall a good customer service experience that you've had lately, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. Many times I'll find it within the organization that maybe accounting and sales worked well together, or maybe, operations and the other departments worked well together. So sometimes it's our internal customer that we have a fantastic relationship. But, I do believe this: if we have happy employees, we'll probably have happy customers, because it's hard not to have that enthusiasm and positivity come through the phone lines, through our emails, and in our interactions. So sometimes it's difficult for my clients to think of a good customer service experience they've had lately in their personal and professional lives. But one of the questions I love to ask is, can you recall a world-class client or customer experience lately? World-class, where you were delighted, where you thought, wow, that was fantastic? So we're going to dig a little bit deeper in how we can make that happen consistently with our organizations. So who are our customers? Well, there's external customers, of course, the people that buy our products and services. It's the people that we connect with, that, we make transactions and deliver goods. But there's also internal customers, and that's our coworkers and our departments, our vendors and our suppliers. It's pretty much anybody and everybody that has an impact on our long-term career or our short-term career and our entire organizational success. So we want to make sure we think not just about our external customers that buy our products and services, but also the other departments, the other people on our team, the people that are above us and below us and to the sides and to the corners of our organization. And if we can have a positive relationship with them, that they look forward to coming to work rather than resenting, feeling like they have to. So one of the examples I like to share is with you is I have my copies made and many of my office supplies I purchase at an Office Depot right here in the Twin Cities. And this is Brittany here that's in a picture with me. And the reason we're in a picture together is because they had this great little client spotlight program that they ran in February. And I was the first person that they inducted into the client spotlight. Now, I didn't request this, I didn't ask for it, but the reason that I was selected was because I knew the staff by name. I was warm and friendly. I was welcoming. I was easy to work with. I recognized and appreciated their timelines. And so they highlighted me as a customer. But I treated them as a customer because they have the greatest impact on my business, whether I have my copies made in time, whether my high-speed scans are perfect, with all of the other aspects of my business. So they had this poster up. It's it's on an easel. And it's right there next to the copy center for a month, highlighting my business, talking about I grew up on a hog and dairy farm. I deliver speeches and seminars, very similar to the introduction that Pat gave me. And I was able, they gave that to me too. So it's in my office. So, little things like that. And what I'm going to ask you to do today is really look for customer service ideas to borrow. I've made the suggestion for years to my clients to always join professional associations that have absolutely nothing to do with your industry. But they have the same kind of issues. They have the same customer service issues, the client relationship issues. They have the same type of budget issues. They have the same type of technology issues, but they have a different perspective. They have a different approach. And if we can pluck that out of their industry, plug it into our industry, we separate ourselves from everybody else. And when our clients do business as well, they go, well, you know what? You're different than everybody else in your industry. And that's what we want. So it makes it much easier for us to be the leader. So the customer service model I always think about is this one where there you are, there's yourself in the left eyeball and the other party in the right eyeball. And you have all these products and services, you have all this information, and we package that into words and messages and text messages and emails and on our website, and we send those messages by arrow over to the other party. Now, keep in mind, the other party can be a customer, it can be a vendor, it's a supplier, it's someone else in another department within our organization. They think about what we've said or what we've done, and then they provide us feedback by arrow. Seems pretty simple. Hard to believe that I could drag out a presentation on client experience for another hour based upon this. But there's a problem with the customer service model. And that problem is that arrow tip right there. When we send those messages by arrow, I want you to imagine that you're literally sending those messages by arrow. How we answer the phone, how we respond to the email, how we respond to a text message. And you're really sending two types of arrows, either messages and arrows that attract people to our organization, or messages or arrows that drive people away. Let's take a look at this way. What are we, about 4 months away from February 14th, Valentine's Day. There's a little fella running around shooting arrows at people, and that's Cupid. And Cupid would be sending messages of love. Oh, how's it feel when you get hit by one of those Cupid's arrows? Wow, feels pretty good. Somebody says, I love you, I care about you, be mine. And when those messages, those arrows pierce our heart, wow, feel pretty good. But how many of you know or have seen or maybe been the victim of a teenager? Anybody ever had one of those in your house? Do they always send Cupid's arrows to their parents? No, they send enemy arrows, poisonous darts. They'll say things like, why have all the people in the world have to be my family? Or drop me off at the corner. I don't want my friends to see you. And when those messages, those arrows pierce our heart, they kind of sting, they kind of hurt. And the bottom line in customer service is, every time we interact with our customers, our clients, we're either attracting them to us and our products and services and our organization overall, or we're driving them away. There's nothing in between. People either like us or they don't. People either trust us or they don't. They either buy the products and services from us or they'll buy them from somebody else. And so we want to make sure that every one of those interactions, every one of those messages are Cupid's arrows, on-time delivery, responding to the phone calls, making sure whatever we said would get shipped was shipped on time, following up if there's any sort of problem, and making sure that the customer is satisfied, to really lead, listen, empathize, act, and demonstrate follow through. So we want to make sure that we're always considering how we can improve those messages. And of course, we'll get that feedback. Direct feedback, what our customers and clients will say to us face-to-face, toe-to-toe, over the phone. Indirect feedback, whether they continue to place orders, continue to buy our products and services. And, and then delayed feedback, what happens over time? Do they give us referrals? Do we get repeat business from the people that they recommend us to? So we want to make sure that we really think about every one of those interactions and making it the best it could possibly be. So before we start shooting these arrows around or shooting our mouth off at work, I want to go through something that puts us in the right frame of mind to make sure we can live up to our organization's reputation when it comes to client experience. Best book I ever read is a book called Reaching Out by Dr. David W. Johnson, and he dedicated a chapter to this list called the 6 Criteria of Personal Credibility. 6 things we need to put in place to start our relationships at work out most effectively. Now, they're in no particular order. According to his research, if you're lacking any one of these qualities, you're lacking credibility. 5 out of 6 doesn't cut it. 4 out of 6, that's even worse. So let's take a look at this list. Number 1, consistently appear warm and friendly. It's not that you're high-fiving and backslapping, saying how great it is to work together every day, but nobody worries who showed up, the happy person or the unhappy person. You're even-keeled, pleasant to be around. And then you express your intentions and motives. I'll call you at 10 o'clock, I'll stop by at 3 o'clock, and you do, so the majority of people find you to be trustworthy. And then you're an information source. You know knowable information, what's on the website, the guidebooks, the handbooks, the meetings you attend. It's what's pinned, pasted, posted on the wall. It comes with the job. If your job's redesigned, they provide you the training to become competent again. So you're an information source. You know knowable information, to the point that in certain areas of what you do, you know more about that than anybody else. You have relevant expertise. You're the in-house expert. When people have a question about that, they seek you out for the answers rather than wasting their time talking to anyone else. Now that one looks like it's going to cost us something. Yeah, a little bit of effort. And I do think world-class customer and client experience is just a little bit inconvenient. It just does take a little bit of effort. So we want to make sure we develop relevant expertise. So we really do dig in a little bit deeper, really understand our products and services, so we're a valued resource. And then the last is to project dynamism, natural enthusiasm. Dynamism isn't that you're doing calisthenics and jumping jacks in between phone calls or emails, but dynamism is when you walk in a room, the lights get a little bit brighter rather than a little bit dimmer. When you come to work, people are happy to see you rather than resenting the fact you showed up again today. And they're all free. They're all free. But it's all how people perceive us. So let's take a look at this for a second. That perception, great customer service creates world-class customer and client experience. So there's actually 6 perceptions going on all at the same time with our clients and our customers. Who I think I am, who I believe you think I am, they're really who you think I am. And then from your side of the relationship, who you think you are, who you believe I think you are, and really who I think you are. 6 perceptions going on between each and every one of us. I believe there's about 60 people that will be in this meeting. So that's about 360 perceptions going on all at the same time, trying to figure out who's going to buy into this, who's making that adjustment. Kind of some smoke and mirrors when it comes to perception. But that's what gives us a chance to create a culture, a climate where we work or recreate it just in how we interact with each other. And it's fast. Take a look at this. It may take as little as 100 milliseconds, a tenth of a second, to form an impression of another person, to decide whether or not he or she is attractive, trustworthy, competent, and likable. A tenth of a second. It takes 2/10 of a second time to change a facial expression. We're late. According to Princeton University, that's less time than it takes to form a rational thought. I always tell my good friends in city and county government, they're held to an unfair standard. People watch them when they leave their house, they take a look at their watch. They can't be downtown in 8 minutes because we're paying their salaries. I work with some county highway departments. They'll see a car or truck coming. They'll just grab a shovel and start moving some gravel around because everyone has a smartphone to take a picture of them leaning on a shovel because, of course, we've never leaned on a shovel. But I want you to think about when you come to work or when you answer the phone or if you're working remotely, it's opening night with every one of our clients, every one of our coworkers, a tenth of a second at a time. So we want to make sure before we, send out that first email, before we make or take that first phone call, that we really make sure that we've managed our own morale. They're in the right psychological state to make sure we're thinking about how can I make this experience something that is memorable so they'll remember to do business with us and not even consider, quoting or bidding against us to find another supplier or vendor. So that's the goal, to make sure that we are really creating a great first impression, but also at the end of the call, at the end of the email, we have dozens of opportunities throughout the day that also leave a positive, lasting impression. So we want to make sure we live up to that expectation. So one of the ways that really helps me is my philosophy on customer service. And that is, according to Webster, a customer is a regular or frequent buyer. According to Welchlin, my customer is my best friend. None of the kids I went to country school with, none of my buddies I went to college with, none of my neighbors have ever made my house payments, my car payments, or paid for my vacations. My customers always have. My customers are my best friend. So when I'm thinking that before I make or take that first phone call, when I'm thinking that when I'm reading an email, when I'm thinking that when I'm responding to a text message, it makes it much easier for me to provide a great client experience. So there's a number of encounters, I will call it, or opportunities for us to participate in this relationship with our clients. And I want us to just think about this top 10 list or this flow that we go through in providing client services and think about how we could maybe become 1% more effective in each one of these points of encounter. And if we can come up with 2 little ideas for each one of these points of encounter, that'd be a 20% improvement in client experience. That would be world class. right away they would say, wow, something's different there. Wow, that was a much more interesting, much more exciting, much more inviting. I feel so valued. I feel so important to that organization. And so we want to make sure that we just identify and improve these points of encounter. And just a couple of ideas that were 1% more effective. So let's take a look at this. First, here's about your department or your organization. I like, the best, of course, is, other clients, other customers making recommendations that their, clients and customers do business with us. That would be great. Sometimes it's a radio ad. Sometimes it's a, Facebook ad, some sort of marketing piece that goes out. But the question is, does it really match? Does it really look like what the experience is going to be when they connect with us? So we want to make sure if there's something on the website, it could be a little bit better. If there's some language in the script that you think could be improved, if there's just a couple of little areas that would be 1% more effective, we want to make sure we share that, whether it's the marketing. I'll give you an example. I was working with a power company, and they were starting a program for just like $20 a month. They'd stop by, check your gas appliances I think it was every 6 months, to make sure you didn't have any carbon monoxide, that everything was working, and you could sleep like a baby because you knew that all your gas appliances were functioning well. Well, the brochure they sent out was absolutely beautiful. I don't know if it's a 4-color, 5-color brochure to a couple of million of their clients. And the service technician photo, he was beautiful too. He looked like a Greek god. He was tall, dark, handsome, had wavy dark hair. He had a service technician shirt that it was fitted or tailored. You could see a 6-pack through his stomach. He's on one knee next to the toolbox that looked like a jewelry box. And the homeowner was standing there next to the furnace looking at him. And so I said to the service technicians in my audience, which one of you was in this brochure? Which one of you was the model? Because that's what they're expecting when you show up. But now they look out the window 5 minutes before the appointment, and you get out of the truck and you hike up your pants and you dust the dirt off your shoulder from crawling out from underneath an old house in North St. Paul. And hey, wait a minute, that's not what I ordered. So we got to make sure that the marketing materials, whether it's on the website or anything that gets sent out in the airways, we want to make, or anything that's online that we're using to promote, matches. So there's congruence through these steps. And then when they visit your website, how easy is it to navigate? How visually stimulating is it? And also, do you have all of your community service activities on that website? People know you do plenty for people when you're getting paid for it. They're wondering what you're doing for people when you're not getting paid for it. So any of our customer service activities, anything we're doing with the local charities, anything we're doing to support those that have less, people look for that, and they'd probably rather do business with someone that is doing something in the community and volunteering and helping versus another organization that doesn't seem to do that, even if they are, but we don't see it on their website. So the website is pretty critical. We want to make sure that the message we want to get across is very clear. So if it is some community service, we want to make sure that we make it available for people to see. And then receives an email from us. I like to always make sure that when I write an email, I'm very clear and concise in the body. Then I put a little sugar at the beginning, a little sugar at the end. So I might say, I hope you're enjoying this beautiful fall Friday, in nearly 80 degrees. I hope you get a chance to enjoy it today. I always want to have something in the beginning that it makes it seem like it is today, and then at the end, hope you have a lovely weekend. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. I always have some sugar at the end, so I have that lasting impression too. But I would want you to have, at least a half a dozen ready to go ways that you introduce the email, and a half a dozen ways you're going to close that email, so you don't have to dream it up all the time, but you just have a list. I tell my good friends when I worked with the convenience store industry, if I'm standing in line and there's a great big lottery and I'm 7 deep and a convenience store, people buy lottery tickets and you say, have a nice day, 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 have a nice day. I know you're going to tell me have a nice day. But wouldn't it be nice where they're pulling out the lottery tickets if they had a list of about a dozen different ways they can say, have a nice day. Thank you for choosing us. Did you find everything you're looking for? Enjoy the beautiful weekend. Wouldn't it be nice if they had a list that it was always different? So even in an impersonal relationship, it felt personal to me as a customer instead of me just hearing the same thing, the same thing, the same thing, the same thing. And you can literally turn a Cupid's arrow into an enemy arrow just through repetition. So we want to be redundant, not repetitive. We want a variety of messages in our emails when we start them and when we end them. And then your text messages too. My kids, One's a millennial and two are two are millennials now. One's a Gen Zer, and they say I'm so formal in my text messages because I capitalize and use punctuation and I write in full sentences. But they know exactly what I mean, and that's my style. So we want to make sure that we don't deviate too much from that. Makes contact with you by phone. Are we peppy? Are we professional? Are we enthusiastic? But what's it like when we answer the phone? Have we warmed up the pipes? 80% of the impact is in our tone of voice, 20% is in the words, and in your voicemail greeting. If they're going to get voicemail, I'll tell you what, probably 8 out of 10 times when I make a phone call, I get people's voicemail, but I get in the wrestler's position when I leave my voicemail greeting. I want as much energy and enthusiasm in that message. So when they listen to the message, they think, wow, we need to hire that guy to come in and give a presentation on that topic for our people. So on those greetings, on the voicemail greetings, as you answer that phone, you want to make sure you're in the right frame of mind. Remember, 1/10 of a second at a time, we want to be ready. So I'd like you to think about this. If you called a different business, a professional business of some sort, of doctor's office, dental office, something like that, what's the impression that person leaves you on the phone? And I'd like you to think about what impression do you leave with your customers on the phone. So we want to make sure on the phone we're ready to go. Make contact with you in person. When that happens, we want to make sure we live up to that. So when they meet us in person, we want to make sure that we keep in mind that 10% opportunity. Meet us in person, that we're dressed appropriately. Now, one of the things I do before the pandemic, when I used to have more interviews in person to be selected to come in to do some training for a company, I'd stop by that organization the day before and I would just watch people come in and out and watch and look at what they're wearing. So I would dress almost exactly the same way. And when I'd walk in, sometimes the receptionist, he or she would say, do you have your badge? Thinking I worked there, and here I was, just going to be hopefully a supplier or a vendor. So, meet you in person is pretty important. And I'm amazed how every organization has kind of a different approach to a dress code. But, sometimes casual Friday turns out to be more like pajama Friday. And I know if I don't dress professionally, I don't act quite as professional. So we want to make sure that we consider that. And then waits to be served. What do they see? What do they smell? If you have clients that do stop by your offices, and some of us, maybe in the restaurant business or other service industries where we do have clients stopping by, what do they see? What do they smell? All the senses, what do they hear? And you want to make sure that you have someone come in with fresh eyes to see that. Now, I don't know if you've experienced this, but let's say you were gone for a month or 6 weeks because of the pandemic, or let's say you just had the opportunity to go on if you're an essential worker, but you did have an opportunity to go on a vacation for a week. You come back to work and you walk in, you go, my goodness, what smells around here? And they say, hey, it stunk when you left. Wow, we got to change that. Or you might, when you come in, you say, well, how long have those boxes been stacked up over there? I don't know, what year is it? Let's get those out of there. That looks terrible. It's kind of amazing how if we get away from something, we can see it. So you might want someone that you know and trust to kind of take a look around and say, what do you see? What do you smell? How does this look? What do you hear? And see if there's some adjustments we can make. Now, it isn't always that customers stop by or clients. So when it comes to waiting to be served, is there some sort of an email or a text message or some sort of a connection we can make from when they have decided to buy until the product or service is delivered? Is there a way that we can stay connected with them in kind of a lighthearted, friendly way? So think about how you're going to make sure that you stay in contact while they wait to be served. And then as introduced to your products and services, how carefully scripted is that? Have we really rehearsed it? Have we gotten good feedback? Does it sound right? Is it in the language that people talk, or is it much too formal and it's kind of distracting? So think about how you're going to draft that language and tries your product or service. So you get a chance to experience it. Is it a money back guaranteed? A kind of a test drive in a way? And do we stay in contact with them while they're experimenting or trying or sorting out how they could actually use it the best way? And do we provide them enough information to make sure when that is a new product that they're successful in using it? I just received something that I had to assemble myself, and there were no words, just pictures. And I am a visual learner, but I think there could have been a few more pictures that would have really helped. And then experiences your follow-up. And if it's a complaining customer, we need to get back to them within 40 straight hours. It's kind of funny, isn't it? If you give a person a couple of days after an argument, how they kind of cool down and they're much more reasonable. Hey, it's the same thing with our customer. We want to make sure we follow up if it's a great experience right away, and if it's a poor experience within 40 straight hours, which means, in about 2 days. If you wait longer than that, they'll say, whatever, I don't care. And the relationship is kind of over. But if you get back in there while the relationship is still, they're still thinking about you, but have cooled down, because feelings are a factor. Biochemistry changes if we're happy or if we're angry. If I took a sample of your blood when you're happy, take a sample of your blood when you're angry, it's a different biochemistry. So for the body to process that and to cool down and to get back to homeostasis, you want to make sure you follow up. Even in a great positive customer service experience, you don't want more than 5 days to go by. It'd be nice, to make sure you connect with them within 5 days to make sure everything's still going as well as planned. And then how you handle problems, how professionally do we make sure that we handle those discussions, and nothing's been signed, nothing's been agreed to. So just have a lively conversation and ask what or how questions. There's no wrong answers to what or how questions. You provide that other person tremendous flexibility in how they respond. But if you start out by asking when questions, there's only one right answer. A who question, there's only one right answer. A where question, one right answer. A why question, which implies judgment or evaluation, they're not going to like that pressure and they're going to become defensive. But if you ask what questions, you're going to get explanations, you're going to get definitions. If you ask how questions, you're going to get examples, you're going to get descriptions. So if I have a customer complaint, I consciously think about going 3 rounds. What, how, what, how, what, how. The more they talk, the better they feel. And if I listen first, I have more credibility when I respond, because the client believes I'm taking their perspective in mind, even if I'm not. So you want to make sure when you encounter and handle problems, you focus on what and how questions, no wrong answers, no pressure. And after you've had 2 or 3 rounds of asking what, how, what, how, what, how, you will get the who's, the where's, the when's, and the why's without putting pressure on the relationship to gather that information. So let's take a look at telephone techniques. Still around 70% of most organizations will have a phone call, involved in the customer interaction. So you want to make sure you give the customer your name. If you need a first and last name, give a first and last name. They'll respond in kind. It's called in communication, the law of reciprocity and similarity. Speak into the phone. You want to make sure that it sounds right. So you might want to call your voicemail, leave a voicemail message if you use a headset to make sure it sounds really good. I have a client that has a great big beard. It's kind of like a Santa Claus beard, and the phone sometimes nests in there, and what I'll hear, kit, September, available. And I say, you know what, Ken, if you could, just send me a quick little email with the details, and I'll double check my calendar. I don't have it in front of me at this time, because I suppose I could and should say, hey, Ken, would you get the phone out of your beard? But, I don't think we have that kind of a relationship. So you want to make sure you speak into the phone so it sounds as good as it possibly can. And then keep your caller informed. If you need to get something for them, you say, would it be all right? Invite them into the decision. If I put you on hold for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and they go, yeah, I'm going to close this screen. I need to open a couple of other ones, so I'll be right back. So they see you working on your keyboard, moving from one screen to another. Or you might say, you know what, we do have that information. It's in the 3rd drawer of my file cabinet across from my office. So if you would be willing, I'll put you on hold for about 30 seconds. I'll go pull that file. And they picture you going over there to the file cabinet, opening up the drawer, pulling out the file, opening it up, and say, okay, I've got the file in front of me. So you kind of want to describe the customer service that you're delivering over the phone, so they know you just didn't put them on hold and you're drinking some pop, having a candy bar, or maybe talking to your neighbor. No, you're actually delivering customer service, and they can picture that. Somewhere around 68% of the adult population thinks in pictures. So we want to make sure that we consider that. If I said to you, if I said cows, you don't picture the letters C-O-W-S, you picture cows, maybe black and white cows, Holsteins, maybe Angus, out on the prairie, out in the pasture, but people think in pictures. So can you imagine when you say, I haven't seen her yet today? What do you imagine or picture that person doing? Or if you said they're out of the office at this time, you picture an office and they're not in it. So we have to think about what kind of a professional picture are we painting when we're on the phone with our clients. Commit to the request of the caller. There's always something we can do. And if we really, help the caller get to the point, how can I help you, or what exactly is it that you need? Then we can make sure that we can guide them, whether it's to our website or maybe a different supplier or vendor that can provide that for them. Now, when I was in manufacturing, I had a couple of really good competitors, and they did certain services or operations that we didn't do. And when my client said, "Can you take care of this for me?" I said, "Absolutely." And then I call one of my best competitors and I'd say, "Steve, I'm going to send you something. Now, this is my customer, and I know you're going to charge me more than I'm going to charge them to take care of this. But would you handle this for me?" And so, within my professional association, I had a couple of really good competitors that I knew and trusted that I could take care of my customer, and they never knew that it went to another plant and came back to my plant, and I delivered it to them. So there's always something we can do. We can always guide them to a website, guide them to a checklist. We can give them a link to a website, something. So I'll always try to help. I thank the caller, thank them for bringing it to your attention, thank them for their business, thank them for complaining, but always make sure they feel appreciation. Because there's 4 things we all want at work. We want to get things done. And if we're going to do it, we could just well do it right. So we want to make sure we get it done right. We get along, so we feel valued and appreciated and included. And we get or give appreciation. I call this the magic pixie dust. I will make sure that gets shipped at 10 o'clock, so you will have it exactly when you need it, so it's done. I'm taking care of it, going to be done right. I've always enjoyed talking with you, so we got along, and we really appreciate that you chose us to be your provider. So any of those sort of messages, you want to make sure you hit all 4 bases. Going to get it done right, we get along, and I appreciate you. And we'll have those customers for life. So I always thank the caller. They need to hear that appreciation. Let your voice fluctuate in tone and volume and pitch. So you want to warm up the pipe. So it's like listening to music to you when you're on the phone with them, 80% of the impact. If you're running $1 million budget and 80% of that budget is $800,000, well, somebody would notice if the money's missing. People notice it when they're on the phone too. And even in our personal interactions, when we're face-to-face and toe-to-toe with our customers, 7% is in the words we choose to use. Yeah, okay, 38% in our voice, and 55%, according to UCLA, and the emotional impact is in our facial expressions, body posture, and hand gestures. But if you're on the phone, 20% is in the words, 80% of the impact's in your voice. And when we commit to writing, that's 100%. That's why people read between the lines, trying to figure out what we meant by what we wrote. So we want to make sure in correspondence that it's crystal clear. So let your voice fluctuate in tone and pitch and volume. And then use hold carefully. Always invite them into the decision. Try not to put anybody on hold for longer than 3 minutes total time. Check in with them every 30 seconds or so to see if it's still okay if they would like to hold, or ask if it would be better if you could call them back, and make sure you do. And if you say you're going to call back in 20 minutes, make sure you call back in 18. Don't call back in 22, because you know what they'll be thinking for the last 2 minutes. You're not calling back, and then you got to dig out of that hole. If you call in 18 minutes rather than 20 minutes, they'll go wow rather than whoa. So you want to make sure you kind of under promise, over deliver. So use hold carefully. Double check if they would like to or would prefer to leave a message, or have you call them back, and no longer than 3 minutes. It's kind of like if you're in a hurry and you get stuck at a red light. Isn't it amazing how long they are? But if you have plenty of time, it seems like you hit all the green lights, or when you stop at a red light, it turns pretty quickly. So, when anybody's on the phone, it just seems like time slows down. So we want to respect that. Be friendly and tactful. So you want to make sure that you're lively and energetic, but still professional. We don't want to get too silly. So what does a customer judge when they're on the phone with us? Reliability, something comes across, we're going to get it done, we're going to get it done right. Responsiveness, that we are really paying attention and it's urgent to us. And assurance that we have the confidence that we will follow through. Empathy, blending with the emotion. Oh, this must have been disappointing. Or, oh, I can't imagine. Or, oh, I can see how frustrating that could be. Blend with the emotion that they feel, so they feel normal. Then they'll listen to logic. If you say, well, you shouldn't feel that way. Well, I do feel that way. Feelings are physiological. So you want to, as well as you can, blend with the emotion. You might say, I can understand how frustrating this is. No, it's not frustrating. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Well, we would never want our customers and clients to feel embarrassed. I'm so sorry that this happened. So empathy, blend with the emotion. And this is how we're going to move forward. Logic won't necessarily change an emotion. Empathy will. I think empathy is probably the hardest soft skill that we can develop, but it's powerful. And then the tangibles, the equipment, you want to make sure it looks good. Even in, physically, if you have delivery vehicles, you want to make sure they look fantastic. When I was in manufacturing, my company car was a red sports car. The company trucks were painted the brightest white paint. You almost needed sunglasses to stand next to them. Then had red, orange, and yellow racing stripes going along the truck body with the name of our company and the phone number where they could reach us. It looked like we were in the race car business instead of making parts for cars and junction boxes and telecommunications. So the tangibles, if any, you have good equipment, you have great sound on your phones, or the technology and how you respond by email or text message or any of the other platforms is well done. And the next time you call a professional office, I want to remind you one more time, what memory did they create, and what kind of a memory do you want to create? And make sure that you create that kind of a feeling. So let's take a look at customers. Even if we do improve every one of those points of encounters, sometimes, things fall through the cracks, or things don't go quite as smoothly as hoped, or, sometimes there's a disruption in the supply chain, believe it or not. So one of the things when you're dealing with a complainer is to get into your stable posture, and that's an acrostic, STABLE, that stands for squarely face the other person. If you're on the phone, you want to lean forward slightly and really take that phone call, seriously. Don't lay back, don't put your feet up, but really get focused. So squarely, if you're face to face, is not square off with your customer or client, but turn your upper body toward them in the conversation. It shows they have our complete attention, our undivided attention. And then tip your head when you're following along, even when you're on the phone, and then nod your head only when you do agree. Clean up the head movements so there's no confusion. Attentive facial expressions, we call these affect displays. Smile when we agree, look confused when we are, kind of squint when we disagree. And it comes through. It comes through the phone lines. It comes through in our interactions. It provides inclusion, affection, and control. Inclusion, they feel included. Affection, that you care. Control, they have some impact, some influence. They can see it on your face. They can hear it in your voice. And then remove the barriers between you and the other person. So the barriers might be that you might want to maybe it's a Zoom call would be better rather than a phone call, or maybe, email is what they would prefer for interactions or correspondence, so they have a written record. But remove the barriers to make it easy to do business with you. And then lean forward slightly, show your enthusiasm as a listener. We lean forward when we agree. We lean back a little bit when we disagree. So make sure your posture is prepared for that. And then the E stands for eye contact. If you're face to face, want to make sure that you make eye contact. People know you hear with your ears. They judge whether or not you're listening with your eyes. Are you making eye contact or not? But also, if you can imagine or picture that person on the phone and you're having a conversation with them as somebody you know and love and trust, well, that makes it a lot easier. If you think of your brother, your sister, your spouse, or significant other, just imagine someone that you care about and how you would like them to be treated. And that's how we want to treat them. So take notes. The reason I take notes with the complaining customer is because it slows down the rate and speed in which they insult me. Take notes because then you have a written record so you can provide feedback and verify you have it just the way they told you. It also eliminates any of the exaggerations. You say, I'm writing this all down so I can share it with my boss or my coworkers. So you want to make sure that you take control of the conversation rather than being a victim of it. So take notes, limits of the cussing and the swearing, the exaggeration, flat out lying, and then you can provide feedback and verify. And you say, oh, okay, we've agreed to this, this, and this. Is that correct? Yep. I'm going to check that off then. That's what we've agreed to do. Use listening noises, especially on the phone. I see, I understand, go on. If they ever say, are you still there? We're not doing our job. So we want to make sure that we stay involved in the conversation. I see, these are called neutral phrases. I can see when it says, I understand, doesn't mean I agree. Go on. Most people would wish they would, shut up, but you're saying go on. So it keeps them in the conversation, invites them into the relationship. Now, don't interrupt, let them vent. Sometimes people have to go up the side of the mountain called emotion to have that catharsis, to get it off their chest. Then they come down the mountain side of reason. So sometimes you just have to let them vent, let them get it all out. And then sometimes they're a little bit dizzy, and then you just invite them back by using their name and say, so Mr. Johnson, how would you like to proceed? And you just, or, if you're on a first name basis, you would say, Cindy, so what should we do moving forward? So invite them into that decision of how we're going to solve this problem, but use their name, empathize with them. I can understand how disappointing this is, or I can understand how embarrassing or frustrating this is, but that's magical as visualizing this person that needs your help to get something done, to get it done right, to maybe feel like they get along with you, or maybe they feel appreciated. Sometimes clients, delay paying their bills. Say, hey, you remember me? I'm an important client. Have you noticed I haven't paid my bill? Because they felt like you've ignored them or haven't been paying as much attention as they would like. So you want to make sure you go back to get it done, get it right, get along, get appreciation. That might be what's causing the frustration. Ask what and how questions, no wrong answers to clarify and resolve the situation. Confirm the agreements in your own words because you know what your words mean. And you want exact and specific numbers, especially if you're dealing with difficult people. Difficult people are great at equivocation and vagueness and word choice. They might say, yeah, I need some of those, and you send them 5. Why'd you send me so many? So whenever they say some or many or several or few, always get an exact or specific number. With your coworkers too, or your supervisor or manager or people that report to you, always try to get exact specific numbers, dates, and times. And then follow up, because if you don't follow up, you're going to follow up. So you want to make sure you follow up with your complaining customer. Remember, within 40 straight hours, not a 40-hour work week, but then the next couple of days. Otherwise, the relationship is over. So one of the ways I'd like you to think about this in an easy model to lead the field in a way is when you communicate with a complaining customer, think lead. I want to be a good leader. Listen. Make sure they know you're listening. This is important information. I'm going to get a piece of paper and a pen so I can write this down, and then ask questions and paraphrase and restate so you're really listening. And when you get a sense of what the emotion is they're feeling, blend with that, the frustration or the disappointment or the concern or the reservations, whatever it might be. And then tell them what action you're going to take. Send them information, email them a form to fill out, some sort of information, or maybe a sample that you're going to mail to them, but there needs to be an action taken. And then demonstrate follow-up. Make sure that you circle back and that they received it, that they're comfortable with it, that they like it, or any other questions or concerns and how they use it. But you think lead, listen, empathize, and what action am I going to take? What's going to be expedited? What's going to, is there a website I can direct them to? Is there something, remember, always commit to the requests of that customer and then demonstrate follow-up. It'd be magical. Okay, let's describe behaviors of a lengthy form. When you have to face a lengthy form, what do you feel? Overwhelmed? So listening, you would say, I've pulled up that form in front of me if you're, in a distant, remotely trying to assist a client. And this is a long form, and don't be overwhelmed. It is overwhelming, I know, so you empathize. And then the action, we need that first section filled out first fully. The other things, those are nice to knows. And then follow up, let's go through it one more time to make sure we haven't missed anything. Oh, do you have that information? And plug it back in. Rude treatment from another department. You would say, what did they say? Or how did they say that? Or, oh my goodness, what were the circumstances there? How do you think that occurred? And so ask those what or how questions. So it shows you're listening. Empathize. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine how heartbreaking that must have been to be treated that way. So blend with the rude treatment and the feeling you'd have from that. And then the action, I will contact that department, or I will send a note to that person's supervisor, or I will talk to them myself, or whatever it might be. And I always find it so funny that when a customer complains or client complains, well, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. You know why they're complaining? They just want you to get your act together. I came across a study that one time claimed that only 4% of the population has the courage to complain. That means 96% of the people that may have been disappointed with your product or service never told you. They just went to a different supplier or vendor, or just say, well, what can you expect? When I grew up on the farm, we used to say if there was one rat, there was 100. If there was one rat, there was 100. But in customer service, 4%. That'd be if there was one complaining customer, there's probably 25 other people that felt the same way that didn't tell you. So we want to make sure that we take these phone calls and complaints seriously. They might have been the person that said we should buy from this customer or this company. They might have been the person that said we should grow our family in this community. We should grow our business in this area. So in a way, it's their reputation that's on the line too, and we're letting them down. So whenever it's rude treatment, want to make sure we follow up. Length of time waiting, we want to make sure that there's something that they listen to. It must, and maybe it's not always just trying to sell them another product or cross-sell them something else. But maybe it's some, customers that, have some sort of a voicemail message about how delighted they were in doing business with you. So length of waiting, how long were you on the phone? Oh my goodness, you're on hold for that long. That must have felt like forever. Empathize, and well, let's take care of this right away. Action. And then did we cover everything? Did we finish everything you wanted or needed? And so you just kind of follow up. I love having that lead formula to follow. So let's take a look at picking your strategy, whether you're going to be a high quality, high service provider or a low cost provider. High quality, high service, that would be some of the high end retailers. It would be Oh, I don't know, like Nordstrom's, it would be Macy's, it would be, Mayo, any of those kind of, well, the organizations have a reputation of doing fantastic. Bloomingdale's, I was disappointed when Bloomingdale's closed out the Mall of America. So because high quality, high service provider, low cost provider, it'd be kind of Menards, might be, I miss Kmart. Target's kind of a funny one. It's kind of a low cost provider, but kind of trendy. So they kind of, are kind of in the middle there, which is a pretty difficult task, but they've carved out a niche. Walmart would be a low cost provider. So you got to figure out what you want to be. And I can't imagine you'd be on this virtual presentation if you didn't want to be a high quality, high service provider. So we want to focus on that. So start with an attitude of gratitude. Be so thankful that they chose to do business with you rather than somebody else. Remember when I said earlier, none of the kids I went to country school with or buddies I went to college with or any of my neighbors made my house payment, car payment, or paid for my vacations. My customers always have. So if we're so happy we have a job, we get to work with such a great company with great products and services, that really helps to get us in the right frame of mind. Do an organizational reality check. Sometimes people are preaching customer service and client experience, and they haven't been face-to-face with a customer or client in years. And we want to make sure that the people that are on the front lines, making and taking the calls, dealing with the complaints, are recognized and rewarded for their great service. Unfortunately, they get reprimanded on bad service, but we don't appreciate often enough the great service that they provide. So we want to make sure whoever's chanting, great client experience and customer service gets an opportunity to demonstrate it and to perform it with us too, and that we recognize and reward great customer service people. So look in the mirror. If you want, make sure you look the part. I always stop. I double check to make sure that I don't have a bat in a cave. I want to make sure I don't have anything in my teeth. I don't want my hair standing straight up. I want to make sure my collars are straight. Just like we talked about with the utility technicians, to make sure they look sharp, like that model in the brochure. You want to make sure that you look the part and that you're neat, clean, tidy. And then check the appearance of your work area. They used to always say a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind. But if it looks like a whirlwind or tornado just ripped through your office, it kind of chips away at your credibility that you have things under control. They used to say if you have piles, you don't have files. So you want to make sure that you are well organized. And I don't know if getting organized is going to take 2 hours or 2 days or 2 weeks, but it's worth every minute of effort because you have it right here. I have it right here. It's in this drawer. And you have that confidence and competence that comes across in all your interactions. And be a good citizen. Anytime there's a bike-a-thon, jump-a-thon, any-thon in town, you have someone go down and participate, have the clothes on with the logo, you get pictures taken, you get it on the website, you promote that you're part of supporting the community and its efforts. You want to make sure people know you do more than just the tasks and activities you do for them. I'd like you to take advantage of new communication technology, not to avoid your customer, but to connect with your client, to make sure it's easy for them to reach you, easy for them to get information on the website, easy for them to download it, easy for them to make it easy to do business with you. So take advantage of new communication technology, but make sure your staff is well trained, they've had a chance to experiment, to polish, that they really are competent with the new technology. That we don't want people fumbling through it. And we can hear that and we lose our confidence that we're going to get the products and services that we are requesting. Train your people well. You want to make sure you have really good training programs, onboarding. You want to make sure that people have guidance in how to perform those tasks most effectively. And then I want you to really think about exceeding your clients' expectations this way with information. Having a checklist, having a flow chart, having information that guides them to help them be successful using your products and services. Also exceed their expectations with speed or the illusion of speed. When I had the delivery trucks with red, orange, and yellow racing stripes, and my company car was a red sports car, I don't know if we were any faster than anybody else, but it sure looked like it, And then exceeding their expectations with speed. If you said it's going to be 2 days, it shows up in 1 day. If it's going to be 20 minutes, you call back in 18 minutes. It's magical how you can, enhance the customer or client's experience by exceeding their expectations with speed. And then exceed expectations with convenience. You want to make it so easy to do business with you. The systems, the processes, the procedures are so easy. I just had a client a couple of weeks ago that I've worked with for years change their accounts payable system. And I spent several hours trying to input the information to get paid from them from providing a virtual presentation to one of their departments. Several hours for me to get paid. It used to be I'd send an invoice and a check would show up in my P.O. box, but I had to do it to make sure, and I had to put in my routing number, all my bank information, all my company information, number of employees, all this stuff. And, and I kept missing a part and missing a step. And they sent me 12 pages of screenshots of how to go through it. And there was one thing I kept missing because I didn't realize you had to hover over something to make that appear. And then it was a phone call, walked me through it, and it was done. But it took several hours at different times. I'd try, and it was just, I felt like a failure. And I almost felt like if they ever called me to do business with them again, I'd rather not, and they would be paying me just because of how frustrating that experience was. So you want to make sure you exceed their expectations with convenience. So here's a philosophy to be good to your customers. Now, under promise, over deliver. Over the years, I followed a service manager for I guess it'd be a nationwide auto service center. First time I met this service advisor was in Bloomington. I liked him, felt competent, felt confident, always a good result. If it said it was going to be $200, it was $175. If it was going to be 2 hours, it was an hour and 45 minutes. Never let me down. Then he went to West St. Paul. I followed him there. Then he went to Maplewood. I followed him there. He's at White Bear Lake. That's where I take my cars. I probably drive past 30, maybe 40 places that could repair my car. I go there because of Kevin. So when you under promise, over deliver, the customer always feels wow. So when it's something that needs to be repaired, it's going to be, about $300 and it's $295. I'm thrilled. If it's $305, why is it $305? It should be $300. Well, we have a recycling fee. Well, that's your part. I have a new part. That's your old, that old part's yours now. Then it'd be an argument. So you under promise, over deliver, so you can always exceed those expectations. Make sure you have good systems, not just smiles. Now, let's say I was in the restaurant business and you come to my restaurant and I sit you in a booth that has a window that you have a nice view of the parking lot. Many of them are. And I refer to you by name and you get your food and wow, that food doesn't taste very good. But it was really a friendly environment. So you might give me a second chance and you come back and I smile, I know you by name, I put you in your favorite booth, with the window overlooking the parking lot, and you get your food and food just doesn't taste good. Well, you're not going to come back. See, I'm in the food business. I'm not in the customer service or client experience business. I'm in the food business. So you got to have really good systems to make sure your products and services are well done. And the bells and whistles are the customer experience, the client experience. And that's easy to do if the systems are in place. So really focus on the processes, the procedures, the systems to make sure they're world-class. So then the customer service and the client experience is relatively easy. It's kind of the frosting on the cake. And I love cake. So ask your customers what they want. Try to limit it to 3 things because we can't be everything to everybody. But it's probably, quick service. It's probably high quality service. It might be a high quality product. Could be if you're a low cost provider, the fastest, cheapest, and easiest to use. But ask your customers what they want and then make sure you focus on those 3 things and really become world class in those. Also, there's no such thing as after hours. Hopefully there's an opportunity they can get information or get in contact with someone or, anytime, 24 hours a day. When I was in manufacturing, we had a phone when we weren't running 24 hours a day. And we had a phone in the warehouse that if truck drivers came through in the middle of the night, they could walk in. And then in the warehouse, there was a phone and a number to call. Usually it was me, but we had somebody on call that would come down like a SWAT team, get on the forklift, unload their truck, take care of the paperwork so they could be on their way. So we never wanted after hours. The shop was always open. That door was always open. We made sure that our clients could tell their truck drivers it's always open. There's a phone call, just call it. Someone will be there within 10 minutes because we wanted to make it really easy to do business with us. So there's no such thing as after hours. And many of my competitors, it'd be 7 to 5, make it, or you're gonna have to wait overnight. We'll be there in 10 minutes. Also shop yourself, all the senses. So somebody you know and trust, maybe someone that's a good friend or someone from the Chamber of Commerce or your professional association. Tell them, hey, I'll tell you what, we'll go out somewhere and have a nice lunch, while the weather's still warm. If you could stop by and just kind of check out, what you see on the outside of the building, what you see when you walk in the lobby. I had a client that put in a new entrance to their medical clinic. And I worked with them in the mornings with their management team. And the next weekend, it was Mondays, that we did a Monday morning kickoff for an hour and a half to prepare them for the week. And one time they had a change in the schedule, say, could you come Monday afternoon instead of Monday morning, like at the end of the day, like at 3:30? I said, sure, always, commit to the requests of your customer. Well, I came in that afternoon, that next Monday, and oh my goodness, the lobby smelled like body odor. And I thought, man, I'm glad I'm not a doctor. Somebody didn't bathe, or wow, what is that? It was really kind of stinky. And then the next week I was back in the morning. It didn't smell when I came into the lobby. And then they said, that afternoon would work again if you're available next week on Monday in the afternoon. I said, sure. Walk by and go, oh my goodness. I came in, it still smelled like body odor. I mean, like, oh my gosh. And what it was, and I pointed it out, was that the sun would come up, and when it came across, it would heat up that lobby, and the fumes coming out of the carpet smelled like body odor. They didn't notice it. I mean, it's kind of like if you grew up on a hog farm, you don't smell the hog manure anymore. If you grew up on a dairy farm, you don't smell the dairy manure anymore. We kind of get desensitized. And so we pulled up the carpet, we replaced it with tile, and now morning, day, and night, you walk in there, it smells very nice. It doesn't smell like body odor. But because they were used to it, they didn't even see it anymore. So you want to have somebody shop your systems, make some phone calls. I had a client that spent $250,000 on a phone system. I said, please give me all the phone numbers that you have that people could access, anybody that works here in any department and any 24-hour phone line. So they gave me all the phone numbers of the organization. And then what I did is I made phone calls late at night and over the weekends. And I said, do you know what happens when you call this number on Saturday? No, nothing. You know what happens when you call this number? It says it's going to be forwarded and it goes nowhere. They had a $250,000 phone system and never tested it. And so sometimes we want to make sure people from the outside give us the feedback, and they'll be honest, and we buy them a nice lunch for $10 or $20. Best information we'd ever get on improving our organization. Manners really are important. There was a great book on etiquette called Don't Slurp Your Soup by Elizabeth Craig. That was fantastic, but we want to make sure that we're not chewing gum on the phone. We want to make sure we're not snacking, and we want to make sure that, we are very professional in our language and finishing our INGs and all those sort of things. So manners really are important. And Mother was right, and so you want to make sure there's no horseplay or, burping or any of that stuff, And then if you do have customers that stop by your location, make sure your restrooms are perfect, immaculate. You want to make sure that you have a kind of a hotline or, a red phone to call maintenance to janitorial to get it cleaned up, get it cleared out, So you want to make sure. When I was in manufacturing, we had one bathroom for men, one bathroom for women, and one bathroom for customers. And that customer bathroom was beautiful. I'm sure when you've gone to car dealerships and, the high-end ones, or, you walk in and you go to the restroom, it's like, wow, I could live here. They have chandeliers and nice counters, and, it's just beautiful. Well, they subconsciously we're thinking, if they take this good care of their bathrooms, I can't imagine how well they'll take care of my car, So there's that whole experience, we want to make sure it's really good. Look for customer service ideas to borrow, whether it's a grocery store, whether it's a convenience store, or the hardware store. But any little thing that you've noticed that you go, that's different. See if there's a way you can give that a little twist, a little bit of a spin, and put it in your interactions. And then celebrate your successes. But you want to make sure everyone celebrates. You don't want someone having to take the phone calls and keep working while everybody else is giggling and laughing and sharing cake. So you want to celebrate your successes. And of course, the success is thank you notes rather than complaints. It's great customer and client experience rather than any of the failures that we've had. So this is the bottom line: providing better customer service and client experience. Determine how good you want to be and at what. How good you want to be and at what. So let's take a look at the pizza industry. When I was young, I went to college. I used to take my dates to Pizza Hut because they had the best tasting pizza. It seemed like it was $20, 40 years ago to go to Pizza Hut. And then I had a hard time passing Calc 2, and I dropped the class a little bit late, and it was a 5-credit class. And I didn't want my parents to know I just wasted $125. So I took a job delivering Domino's pizza. Now, at that time, or at that point, Domino's wasn't known for being the best tasting pizza, but it was fast delivery, 30 minutes or less, or it was free, That's why the Domino's drivers are driving through your alleys over your front yards and running stoplights, because there would be $1 for every pizza that was like taken out of your mileage reimbursement. So, so when it came to when my wife and I moved to the Twin Cities, I came across Little Caesars, and it was pizza. You get 2 pizzas, and sometimes they throw in the crazy bread for free. So you had Pizza Hut that was the best tasting pizza. You had Domino's, which was the fastest delivery. And then you had Little Caesars Pizza. And then all of a sudden, Pizza Hut started to open some delivery huts. And you think, wow, the first time you went in there, wasn't any place to sit. He said, can I order a pizza? Yeah, but you have to stand outside. Okay. Drivers are coming in and out. You think, wow, that's a lot like Domino's. And then they had the 888 deal where you get 2 pizzas and you're like, hey, that's a lot like Little Caesars. And they kind of lost their focus. And then Papa John's comes along saying, oh, better ingredients, better pizza. That's what Pizza Hut used to be. So you want to make sure you figure out how good you want to be and at what. So whether it's promptness, whether it's courtesy, whether it's the product, whether it's the service, whatever it is, however you define your organization and its culture, you want to be world class on that. So how good do you want to be? Everything else will find its way around it. Customer's point of view, have you thought about what it's like to do business with you? How professional, how consistent are we in what we do? Or is it, it depends on who you get on the phone. Oh, I hope not. I mean, phone skills are so easy to train. You can't be, well, it depends on who you get on the phone or depends on who the delivery driver is. No, so we want to make sure that we really think about it from the customer's point of view. I went to the same dry cleaner for years because they knew me by name and they took good care of my clothes. I never had crushed buttons. I never had repairs. Everything I'd asked was done. And then that person retired and I kind of fumbled around looking for another dry cleaner. So they understood what I was looking for and how well it needed to be done. Quantify the lifetime value of a customer. Think about over the next 10 years, because if you deliver really good customer service, you should be able to keep them for a little over 9 years. So I always like to times it by 10. How much business do they do with you? Times it by 10. You think, wow, for $10 million, of course, we'll take good care of them. Or even if it's $100,000 or if it's $10,000, whatever it might be, depending on your business and its size. But, sometimes when it comes to, your internal customers or people you don't really like, sometimes you might have to think about, they volunteer and they give away an hour a week. And well, that's 50 hours a year. That's 500 hours over the next 10 years. That'd be like an entire business quarter. That'd be 3 months of a leave of absence where all they did was volunteer. I can appreciate that. So any way you possibly can to quantify the lifetime value of a customer and times it by 10 so you get the magnitude or the impact of that. Also, whoever deals with a customer face-to-face or over the phone, or interacting by email, you want to make sure they have the authority to resolve the problems. Anything we can do as far as a refund, as far as an exchange, as far as remove and replace, anything we can do to make it right. Nothing more frustrating for a client than you have to say, well, I'm going to have you talk to my supervisor, and they have to go through it all again and talk about what the problem is and the issue is, and then negotiate some sort of a conclusion, and then they'll come up with some sort of a compromise, and it's a 2-step process. If we can solve the problem the first time, we get 95% retention of our customers and clients. So if we can push that authority, that empowerment down to the front lines where they can take care of it, you're going to have customers for life. So we want to make sure that whoever is face-to-face dealing with the client on the front lines has the same menu to choose from to resolve those issues, or to provide an additional incentive, or to provide a discount if they bought more. Just as much as we can, get it on the front lines. And is this something a friend would charge for? That's a pretty good question. Let's say that I have a friend stop by and I see them, I smile, I shake hands, I go, "Hi, you've been working out, you have a strong grip, it's great to see you, look like $1 million, and have a great day," when they leave. Or if I have somebody coming, that's a customer we don't enjoy, do we do the same thing? Or would you have to say, "Kid, I'll give you $20, smile when you see this customer, shake hands with them." I suppose you can't when the pandemic is going on, but, at least light up when you see them. Pay them a compliment and say, "I look forward to seeing you again soon. $20. I say, "You're on." They walk in, I smile, I light up, I say, "My goodness, you look great. You've been taking good care of yourself, eating well or you're exercising. Well, what's going on?" And then I say, "Have a great day, and it's always great to see you." And $20. We wouldn't hold, we wouldn't charge a friend for that. Well, we shouldn't hold a client or customer ransom for that either. If there's something you would give away to a friend, we have to have that kind of a mindset when it comes to our clients too. And then when things go wrong, always apologize for the inconvenience, apologize for the mistake. When we apologize when we're wrong, we're still right. And then you fix it, whatever it is, whether it's replace or restore or refund, whatever it might be. And explain how you do things to your customers and how it's to their benefit to make sure you get the biggest discount that we allow. This is what I need from you to make sure that we ship exactly what you've requested. I need this information too. Always tell them the reason for the request and how it benefits them. Explain to customers how you do things. There's a beer company years ago that put out an ad that said all the different steps and processes that they go through. So every time you crack open that bottle or snap open that can of beer, it tastes the same way. Most people didn't know what the process was, but just informing the customer about the process, their sales went up. So sometimes it isn't just constantly trying to get them to buy, but sometimes it's informing them of how you do things and how it benefits them. So explain to customers how you do things and how it's to their advantage. Hire the best people. You want to hire people that have a history of success, a history of customer service experience that is positive. You want somebody that's energetic and enthusiastic. We don't pay the price for hiring the best employees. We pay the price for hiring the bad ones. And when you do hire someone, make sure you stick them with the heroes or heroines in your organization that really live up to this world-class client experience. When I would hire new employees, I would stick them with Kenny for a week. I mean, Kenny's work would look like jewelry. And then I'd send them with Bert because Bert was very consistent. Bert had great systems, and so they could pick up on that. So always connect, because when you hire a new employee, they often gravitate to tainted employees, the people kind of bend the rules, that kind of push people's buttons because it's exciting, it's racy. We don't want that. We want to stick them with the people that are professional, that take good care of their customers, that put out great products and services, people that live up to the values and mission of our organization. Always make sure you attach them to the heroes and heroines in your organization so that rubs off on them and they'll be a great hire. And then measure performance. And when it comes to performance, you want to make sure you focus on the positive, not the negative. On-time deliveries, not the late ones. Thank you notes, not complaints. You want to focus on the positive, not the negative. Also, you want to make sure that that number, that ratio, that percentage, that information is easy to accumulate or easy to find, but also we understand the value of it, the importance of it, why that's a number that we pay particular attention to. But if we focus on the positive rather than the negative, that's what we're going to get more of. That's the goal that we seek. So once upon a time, there were 4 people. Their names were everybody, somebody, nobody, and anybody. And whenever there was an important job to be done, everybody was sure that somebody could have done it, but nobody did. When nobody did it, everybody got angry because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought that somebody would do it, but nobody realized that nobody would do it. So consequently, everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done in the first place. And that's what I find when it comes to this type of information on client experience and world-class customer service. I'm not asking you to do anything I wouldn't do. I'm not asking you to do anything that's extraordinary as far as, being wild and crazy, but just to find those little steps, those little strategies, those little approaches, those 1% differences. Has provided you probably 75 or 80 ideas on how to enhance that customer experience. Can you imagine if each one of those made a 1% improvement and had double your customers and clients' experience in a positive way? That would be fantastic. So this is what I want you to think about every day when you come to work. In 1 minute, I can change my attitude. In that minute, change my entire day. I believe it can change your entire life. Now, I like what I do, but I've been doing this for 30 years, and every once in a while, and I would say it's once every, 3 or 4 months or so, I just don't feel like it. But I have a playlist in my SUV that I listen to. It Styx, Van Halen, Cheap Trick, 38 Special REO Speedwagon, and by the time I get to the event, I'm like, give me a microphone, give me an audience. Music and singing is how I manage my morale. So when I walk in to that organization, I'm ready. I'm fully prepared. I've got the right attitude in a way. So in 1 minute, I can change my attitude. In that minute, change my entire day. So just do a little checkup with yourself. How do I feel? How stressed am I? What's going on? And can I get in the right frame of mind and kind of, talk? If you ever had one of those days where time just flew, backtrack and think about, who did I talk to? What did I have for breakfast? What did I listen to on my way to work? Or what was I thinking? Or, and see if you can find that formula of that step-by-step approach of how you begin your day, that every day time will just fly because physically, psychologically, emotionally, it's all congruent. And if I was an actor, I get paid to play a role. Guess what? At work, we get paid to play a role. Let's say I didn't make my living as a trainer, professional speaker, seminar leader, but let's say I made my living as an actor. Instead of this being a virtual presentation on client experience, let's say this was a Shakespearean play and I'm an actor in that play, but I don't want to do it today. Okay, I don't want to put on the little booties. I don't want to put on the tights. I don't want to put on the frilly shirt. I don't want to bound across stage. You have $50 tied up on your ticket and I'm on stage doing this. To be or not to be, that's the question. To be or not to be, where art thou? But you feel like you got your money's worth? No, you demand your money back. If I was an actor, I get paid to play a role. Guess what? At work, you get paid to play a role. Just be the role model and provide that fantastic client experience every interaction, 1/10 of a second at a time, every time it starts. If you ever would like additional information, you can always email me, kit@welchlin.com or kit@seminarsonstress.com. If you'd like to just, look at some YouTube videos to, they last 2.5, 3 minutes or so. I have more than 250 of them on the YouTube channel with my name, Kit Welchlin. If stress seems to be an issue, because, man, who's not under stress with the pandemic and all the changes going on? You can go to my YouTube channel, /Seminars on Stress. There's about 50 videos on there, lighthearted approaches to managing stress. And you're certainly welcome to those anytime. And if help to put you in the right frame of mind to provide world-class client experience. So I'm going to stop this presentation and I'm going to see if there's some questions that people may have. Pat, do we have any questions that anybody put in the chat box or?
Not yet. Taking a look
okay.
here.
Well, they can certainly unmute themselves and ask those questions. Or do you want them to just put them in the chat?
Either way would be fine.
Any questions, any concerns, anybody I need to apologize to? Here's somebody. Okay,
Hi.
great. Hi.
I was just wondering, do you have any ways you'd recommend practicing all these skills? Obviously in the workplace, you can practice skills, but I'm still a teen working. I work as a server. So do you have any ways besides work you would recommend practicing these skills?
Yeah, anytime we try something new, the first time it feels kind of awkward. And then when we have a positive response to it, it feels kind of phony. And then the next time we try and it's not quite as good, and we think, oh, I'm going to abandon it. And, in a great little book over here called Communicating Today, it claims it takes 27 consecutive repetitions of a new communication behavior to form a new communication pattern or habit. So it does take quite a bit of effort. When I give seminars on handling difficult people, I'll make a suggestion. People say, I said that one time, but it didn't work. Well, you might have, 26 more times that you need to say that to wear them down. So one of the things I'll do is I'll certainly send Pat the slides and to share that, and I've always asked my clients, if client experience or customer experience really is important, well, maybe we should spend a few minutes, where there's resources available or, a quick little reminder or an update. So I always have appreciated when the owner or the C-suite people and the managers and supervisors also attend the training so that everyone is, looking for and recognizing the changes we're trying to make. And then we can, reinforce those and compliment each other for making those adjustments. And that makes it a lot easier for it to, create a different culture in our organization. So, one of it is, self-study, of course, and then, self-discipline to kind of track it yourself. And then the next time you have someone that you work with says, yeah, I had a complaining customer about this, one of the things I've said that seems to, really help is this. And then, they turn into customers that come back and they, really, you say that? Yeah, I say that. You try that today. So, having to be vulnerable enough to share those ideas. Now, when I give the presentation live, there's a role play activity where it's a citizen calling into a county office, and the first person that answers the phone says, I don't know, let's just make it up. Let's say Hennepin County, but they don't, say their name, and they don't say what department they are, and you say, please hold, boom, and they just transfer you to somebody else, and then somebody else answers, Hennepin County, and then you still don't know if you're in the right department. Anyway, we have this little role play that goes back and forth, and then at the end we say, what did the first clerk miss? They could have said or could have done. What did the second clerk miss? They could have said or could have done. And then the question is this: with your coworkers, when they don't say or don't do that, do we have the courage to point that out? Remember, we went to that customer service seminar and we talked about doing these things. And I think I just heard you say, you know, I haven't seen her yet today, which is a terrible image, instead of saying she's not in her office at the moment, which is a more professional image. Oh man, I tell you, you know, it takes quite a bit of, you know, the courage to tell people what they need to hear, to be kind about how you present it. And, you know, sometimes you have to manage up, you know, to say, oh, I went to this presentation and here's this list. I think, you know, we're missing this one, you know, and maybe pick them off one at a time. People often, you know, will read a paragraph, but they won't read a book, you know. So I always suggest if you had, you know, a list and you just highlighted a couple of those saying, you know, I think this is an area we could improve. What do you think? You know, invite them into the decision and then chit chat about it and, you know, see if it can kind of we call it emotional contagion, that other people can kind of catch it by rubbing off on them. That help?
Thank you. Yeah.
You're
Kit, I
welcome.
think we have another question here.
Okay,
Hello.
great.
I really enjoyed your slide on points of encounter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my question has to do with follow-up. If we feel like we need a bigger range, you said 5 days, correct? If we
Yeah.
feel like we need a bigger range to follow up, does it lose effectiveness or should we still follow up?
Oh, still follow up. Yes. You know, even if it's more than 5 days, you know, I always like to, you know, shoot for the highest level and instead of, you know, less than. So, you know, 5 days seems to be about the amount of time that, you know, there still feels to be a connection that, you know, so many things going on now, you know, it's probably I'm sure somewhere in April or May, you might have had a day where you say, wow, today was the longest week of my life, you know, and we're really, you know, scrambling because of the pandemic. So, you know, you know, if you have to wait longer, that's all right. Just make sure we still do follow up. You know, even in my social media platforms, if I, you know, was in a full day workshop and then I needed to make a couple of phone calls and I missed, you know, wishing someone a happy birthday, I still will wish them a happy birthday, even if it's a day or two late, because, you know, then I might be the only person that did that day, which then, you know, is even more powerful, you know, odd sort of way, even though I'd missed it, but I still followed up. So my virtual assistant, I have her do the very same thing. And, you know, my LinkedIn profiles, you know, with anybody that was promoted, anybody that got a new job or, you know, their birthday, if we have that even if we, you know, missed it, but, you know, for some reason that, you know, the next day, just do it anyway, you know, because, you know, we want to make sure that we have that consistency of always following up. So yeah, that's fine. Just, you know, as soon as you can, and whatever system or process or whatever service you provide, just do it as promptly as you can. Great question.
Oh, and then sorry, I had a follow-up. Of those points, I think I didn't hear, did you say if we do 1 or 2 of those, there's a 20% increase or so? I missed.
Yeah, you know, great question. So whenever I share those 10 points of encounter, you know, like if we were in a workshop together, I'd have a little A and a little B under each one of those. So first, here's about your organization or your department or what you do. And then you'd have a little A and a little B to write down an idea that'd be 1% more effective. So you'd have 2 of those little ideas for each one of those 10 points of encounter. Or when we answer the phone, how we could put a little more spark in it, you know, to that there's a consistency across whoever answers the phone, that it's, you know, professional and positive and enthusiastic. Let's say those are the criteria. And say, what could we say that would live up to that? You know, so, you know, I love the, you know, good morning and good afternoon, even if it's the wrong time of the day, because then somebody says, good morning, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You go, oh, I thought it was a long morning. And there's such a strong personal connection that occurs when we make those little mistakes. And then it's just, there's two people having a conversation rather than a customer service representative on the phone with a client, you know? So I like those greetings, you know, on the phone. You know, if we got just a menu of a half a dozen of those that are ready in mind, and depending on, you know, the day or the weather, or, you know, how things are going in, you know, in the world, you know, how we could make it, you know, the most effective. So what I'm looking for in each one of those 10 are just a couple of ideas for each one that would be 1% more effective. And if my math is correct, that would be a 20% improvement in that client's experience, which would be fantastic.
Thank you.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
I think we have time for one more question if there is one. Otherwise, maybe a quick follow-up, Kit, would be, as you're presenting this, are you seeing things that certain companies are doing during COVID, restaurants and things, servers are wearing masks, so the communication can be tougher, and even with Zoom meetings or, the lack of in-person things?
Yes, I just last week I had a presentation for a utility in Iowa that provides gas and water and communications for their entire area of Iowa. And it's kind of a 3-county area that provide it all. And you have this great big, spectrum or a wide range of, hardly any concern to highly anxious, concerned about, COVID. Like my mom and dad still live on the farm. They're still farming. My mom's 89, my dad's 95. They're still on the farm. We went down for Mother's Day and my wife brought along some masks. And my mom says, "Oh, you have masks. Where do you get those?" And we're like, there's a pandemic. We went down to Father's Day. They don't have a mask. Went down to my dad's 95th birthday in August. I've gone through the Dust Bowl. I've gone through the Depression, World War II. If this is going to kill me, that's fine. It's like, oh my God. So you have some people that aren't that concerned. And you have this other range of people that are highly anxious. So what we talked about in customer service with essential workers, out in the community, in and out of people's homes, and so to gauge that concern with the client, to have a list of procedures that you go through that you could hand them, and you have your gloves on so they know that, no one else has been, hanging on it or touching it, or to just go through it to show them the guide. We're going to do this, 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 and this to make sure that, you're safe, your family's safe, my family's safe too. So as much as we can empathize, and gauge our client to be able to provide them the service they feel the most comfortable with. Yeah. So, to be nimble and to maybe adjust to each and every person you come into contact with, I think is what's critical now. My wife and I went out to dinner, what night was it? Today is Friday. So it was Wednesday night. And, all the servers had masks on, and the server says, "Am I standing too close to you?" And my wife goes, "Oh yeah, you're fine. You're not too close." And so I think kind of measuring that, it's a lot easier in person because you can see their facial expressions and body posture, but it seems like the technology is trying to replace those communications that were face-to-face. But I have had 5 in-person presentations over the last 3 weeks, and the people that attend are almost like elementary school kids. They're squirming in their seats. They're so excited. They're energetic. I mean, people have not lost that desire to make personal connections with each other. So I don't think it's going to completely replace human interaction, but it is odd. And I have found, with some of my clients that, it's their first Zoom call ever, and to have a meeting, and they're highly anxious about the technological, mistakes that can be made. And there's a lot of concern and anxiety, and it kind of comes through, and then everything goes well. There's, so relieved. And then others that have become really good at it. So we have that whole range, and with our clients too, we have to gauge that, my parents would never get an email if you emailed them. You'd have to make a phone call, and they didn't even have voicemail for a while, to just lately that a grandson stopped by and set it up. You'd have to mail them a letter, so we have to be able to adjust. Now, in my client base, when I get someone new contact me, I will look to see if I can find them on LinkedIn, take a look at their history, and then I get an idea of what generation they're from. And that gives me a better idea if I should call them, or if I should send them an email, or if I should and I believe that it's really the platinum rule now: do unto others as they'd like to be done unto. So it might be an older person that would like to meet for a lunch or dinner. It might be a baby boomer that would like to have you come into their office or go to a conference room. It could be a Gen Xer that would rather have an email or an attachment or some, or a link they can go take a look for themselves. It might be a millennial that you're going to need to text message, or, maybe send an Instagram, or Snapchat or something, with a Gen Zer, whatever platform. So I believe whatever platform they want to use is a platform we need to deliver our service and provide that client experience. So we just have to be tremendously nimble. But once we, once we get the hang of it, with all those different platforms, I think then that confidence comes through. Remember the tangibles, that we're skilled and capable of using the technology, and then they have much more comfort that our products and services will be successful too.
Great. Well, I think with that, we'll wrap things up. We appreciate your time, Kit. We also want to recognize and thank our sponsor, Hamline University, for their support of these programs throughout the year. Kit, what's a website that people could reach out and find your information and contact you?
Yeah, I have two websites. One is just my last name, Welchlin. So it's welchlin.com, WELCHLIN.com. The other is seminarsonstress.com. Those are my two websites. And yeah, I'd love to stay connected, and anything I can do to help, please don't hesitate to call. That's the least I can do if you've been trapped on this Zoom call for an hour and a half with us.
Great, great. Well, thank you all, and we wish you a great day. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll be getting additional seminars set up shortly. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.